All right, so buckle up because today we're diving into some writing that's, well, let's just say it's not your typical self-help stuff.
It's definitely a unique blend.
We've got a fictional piece that throws you right into a life or death scenario, and then advice on commanding a room like a total rock star.
It's a fascinating mix of storytelling and practical techniques.
Let's start with I see you. Imagine waking up strapped to a surface facing an electric chair.
Talk about a wake-up call.
Right, not exactly how you want to start your day.
Right.
But the thing is, the author manages to find humor, even in this absolutely terrifying situation.
It's dark humor, for sure, but it's effective.
Like, for example, they describe the air being as thick as the protagonist's ex.
Okay, not the comparison you'd expect, but it adds this layer of, well, I guess you could call it dark humor.
It's unexpected.
Yeah, and it makes the protagonist more relatable, you know? Even in this crazy situation, there's still a person with a sense of humor.
And then there's the dilemma itself. Speak and condemn another soul, or stay silent and face death.
A classic choice with no easy answers.
What would you do? Seriously, think about it for a second. If you were in that situation, what would you choose?
It's a question that really makes you think about your own values.
Totally. And the way the author leaves the scene open-ended, it just adds to the suspense.
Yeah.
You know, you're left wondering what the protagonist is going to decide.
It definitely keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Okay, so then we shift gears completely with own the stage or be owned by it. This piece is all about confidence.
Projecting an aura of power.
Right, but the advice is definitely bold.
Not for the faint of heart.
The author compares a nervous speaker to a drunk penguin, which, I mean, come on, that's hilarious.
It's a funny image, but it does highlight the importance of appearing confident.
Okay, but then they suggest things like the psychopath stare and using uncomfortable pauses to, like, throw the audience off balance.
It's definitely provocative.
Borderline disturbing, right?
Well, I think the author is playing with some psychological principles, you know. The idea is to use your presence to command attention.
To control the room.
Exactly. Now, I wouldn't recommend going full-on psychopath on your audience.
Yeah, maybe tone it down a bit.
But the point is that strong eye contact and deliberate pauses can be powerful tools.
And then there's this line, own the stage like a brothel.
Okay, that's not something you're going to find in your typical public speaking book.
It's a bit much, isn't it?
It's definitely pushing the boundaries, but the underlying message is about taking control, making the audience feel like they're in your world.
Captivated by your every word.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder, though, do you really need to be that bold to make an impact?
It's not necessarily about being aggressive, but it is about having confidence in yourself and your message.
Speaking of bold, let's move on to the Poetry Master book advertisement.
This one is short but powerful.
Even in a short ad, you can see the author's style, you know? It's intense.
Definitely not for the faint of heart.
It's like an extension of that own the stage piece, emphasizing confidence and impact.
Breaking away from the traditional, finding your own voice.
It's targeted at a very specific audience, people who are looking for something more unconventional.
If you're looking for a cozy poetry reading, this is not the book for you.
It literally says, not for wimps.
Yeah.
Not for people who think a poetry slam is a cozy reading night. Not for cowards.
But author is making a statement.
They're definitely not holding back.
That's for sure. Welcome back. You know, as we're going through these pieces, it's like there's this underlying theme of confidence and owning your space. It goes beyond just public speaking.
It's like that brothel owner mentality, right?
Yeah.
But not literally, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about taking control, projecting that confidence.
And you see it in the ICU piece too, right? Like the protagonist is so overwhelmed at first they're not sure how to react.
They're even wondering if it's some kind of messed up game show, which, I mean, can you blame them? Have you ever felt that way, like totally caught off guard?
Oh, absolutely. That feeling of being outside your comfort zone, like you're not sure what to do next.
But then in Own the Stage, it's like the opposite. The author is almost demanding that you project confidence, even if you don't feel it.
It's that fake it till you make it idea, but like on steroids.
What do you make of that advice? Is it too much, or is there something to it?
Well, I think the author's trying to emphasize that confidence can be a performance, you know?
Hey.
It's a way to influence how others see you.
Like, have you ever noticed how someone who's super confident can just change the whole vibe of a room?
Oh, totally. They just command attention without even trying.
Right.
And while the author's methods might be a bit extreme, there's a lesson there about the power of self-assurance. It's not about being arrogant. It's about believing in yourself and letting that belief show.
So it's not about trying to be someone you're not. It's about finding a way to like amplify the best parts of yourself.
Exactly.
And that kind of connects back to the idea of finding your voice, which the Poetry Master ad talks about, right? What did you think about that piece?
It's like a manifesto for unconventional expression, you know? It's challenging you to break free from limitations and just be yourself authentically.
That's a great point. It's not just about speaking up, it's about speaking in a way that feels true to you.
Absolutely. The ad wants you to find your own style and use it to make an impact. It's like it's daring you to be bold, to be different.
It reminds me of that line from Own the stage like it's your personal brothel. Well, that might be a bit much.
Yeah.
I think it speaks to that same boldness.
Yeah, I agree. It's about taking command of your space, making the audience feel like they're experiencing something truly unique.
It's about owning your narrative and
Mhm.
sharing it with the world in a way that's both impactful and authentic.
And sometimes that means pushing boundaries and challenging norms.
Yeah.
Think about a time when you saw someone break the mold and do something totally unexpected. How did that make you feel?
It's always inspiring to see someone defy expectations and create something new.
Exactly. And that's what these pieces are encouraging you to do. Find your voice, be bold, and make your mark on the world.
Now let's go back to I See You for a second. That opening scene is so powerful. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the author using humor in such a dark and intense situation?
It's a really interesting juxtaposition, you know? Putting humor into that grim scenario, it creates this sense of unease, almost like a nervous laugh in the face of danger.
It's unsettling, but it also makes the protagonist more relatable. It's like, even in the darkest of times, there's still room for humor and humanity.
And that humor actually makes the dilemma even more compelling because you're forced to confront the absurdity of the situation while also grappling with the very real consequences.
It's like the author saying, yes, this is life or death, but life is also inherently absurd even in its darkest moments. Does that resonate with you at all?
Absolutely. It's a reminder that we have a choice in how we frame our experiences, even when facing impossible choices.
That's a powerful thought, and it brings us back to this idea of confidence and ownership. Even in a situation like the one in I See You, the protagonist has the power to choose how they respond.
Exactly. They can give in to fear or they can find a way to own their situation, even if it means finding humor in the darkness.
Speaking of owning the moment, let's go back to the Poetry Master ad for a minute. It really emphasizes that poetry is not just about words on a page. It's about the performance, the energy, the connection with the audience.
It's like the author's pushing for a more visceral, almost theatrical approach to poetry.
It's about bringing the words to life.
Exactly. And that connects back to the broader theme of confidence and owning your space. It's about finding that spark, that passion that lets you truly connect with others.
It's about making your words matter.
Yes, making them resonate, making them memorable.
Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to go back to the Own the Stage piece and dig into some of the specific advice the author gives. Let's start with that psychopath stare. Again, it's definitely the most memorable, if not the most practical piece of advice.
It's definitely attention grabbing, but underneath all the shock value, there's a kernel of truth to the idea that eye contact is powerful.
So it's not about literally channeling your inner psychopath. It's about using your gaze intentionally.
Right. You don't have to stare people down, but
Uh-huh.
maintaining strong eye contact shows that you're engaged and confident. Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable it can be when someone avoids eye contact?
Oh, totally. It makes you wonder if they're not being truthful or if they're just not interested.
Exactly. By maintaining eye contact, you convey confidence and show that you're present.
What about those uncomfortable pauses? I can see how they could be effective, but I also imagine them backfiring spectacularly if not done right.
The key is intentionality. A well-placed pause can create anticipation and emphasize a point, but an awkward, unintentional pause can totally throw things off.
So it's all about timing and delivery, like a comedian mastering the art of the pregnant pause.
Exactly. It's about using silence strategically.
And what about the advice to own the stage like it's your personal brothel? That one's a bit more difficult to unpack, to say the least.
Right. Yeah, I understand the author's point, but that analogy might not land well with everyone. It's about taking command of the space, making the audience feel like they're in your world. Maybe there's a better way to say that.
I think you're right. The author's using hyperbole to make a point about confidence and ownership. It's about feeling comfortable in your own skin and projecting a sense of authority that draws people in.
Exactly. It's about being the master of your domain.
Well, I think we've reached the end of part 2 of our deep dive. We've explored some fascinating ideas about confidence, communication, and the power of voice. But there's still more to come. Join us in part 3 as we continue to unravel the mysteries of this unconventional and thought-provoking material.
Welcome back. It feels like we've been through a lot with these pieces, you know? Electric chairs, psychopathic stares.
It's been a journey, for sure.
Right.
But, even with all the dark humor and the unconventional advice, I think there's some really good stuff here for anyone who wants to communicate better. I totally agree. And what's really interesting to me is how much of this advice applies to everyday life.
Right.
Not just for writers or performers.
Yeah, that's true. Like that focus on confidence and self-assurance, it's not just about owning a stage, it's about owning your space in any situation.
Right. It doesn't matter if you're in a meeting at work, giving a presentation, or just talking to a friend, projecting confidence can make a huge difference.
Think about it. Have you ever noticed how someone who just seems genuinely confident can totally change the energy of a room? They command attention and respect without even saying a word.
It's like their confidence is contagious.
Yeah.
And I know we might not all be born with that natural charisma, but I think it's something you can work on.
Oh, absolutely. It starts with believing in yourself and what you can do. And even if you don't feel confident right away, remember that confidence is often a performance. You can fake it till you make it.
The author of Own the Stage definitely seems to believe in that. But it's not just about putting on a show, right? It's about finding that inner strength and letting it show.
Exactly. It's about knowing your worth and owning what makes you unique. And when you do that, it shows in everything you do.
And that brings us back to that idea of finding your voice, which the Poetry Master ad is all about. It's not just about speaking up, it's about expressing yourself authentically.
It's about finding that unique mix of style, tone, and substance that makes your message hit home. What makes you stand out from everyone else? What do you bring to the table that nobody else does?
Those are good questions to think about.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about all the different ways we communicate, not just through words, but through our actions, our choices, even our silence.
You're right. It's about finding the right tools and techniques to get your message across effectively. And sometimes that might mean taking a page from the Own the Stage playbook and being a little bold, a little unconventional.
Maybe not the whole psychopath stare thing, but definitely that sense of ownership and command.
Right. It's about finding what works for you and using it to create something that matters.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some of the key things you want our listeners to take away from this?
The most important thing is to believe in yourself and what you can do. Confidence is so important for good communication, whether you're on a stage or just having a conversation.
And don't be afraid to be yourself. Embrace the things that make you unique and let them shine through.
Experiment with different ways of communicating. Find what feels right for you and what works for the people you're talking to.
And remember, you have a voice, and it deserves to be heard. Don't be afraid to use it to share your ideas, your passions, and your perspective with the world.
Well said, the world needs your voice.
And if you're looking for some inspiration on how to tap into that power and make a difference, Poetry Master by Stefan might be worth checking out.
From what we've seen, it's definitely not for everyone. But if you're ready for a bold and different approach to communication, it could be the book for you.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive. We hope this has given you some new ideas, challenged some of your old ones, and maybe even inspired you to step outside your comfort zone and embrace your own unique voice.
Be creative.
Deve ser